Welcome, guys, to the Survivor series. This is Cyndi. Cyndi, thank you so much for doing this and sharing your story with us, and just helping us spread awareness and educate more people about human trafficking.
Thank you
So
very much for the invitation. I'm so happy to be here.
awesome. Well, I'm just going to give you the space to share your story. We're all very looking forward to hearing from you. I know last time we couldn't get everything working. So for everyone who
Yeah.
missed last time or didn't get to hear it, this is Cyndi and she's finally getting to share it. So Cyndi, and have fun. And then if you guys have questions, please just share them into the comments and we'll have a Q&A at the end of whenever her story is done. So
Yeah. So, hey guys, my name is Cyndi Rivero. I was born and raised in Costa Rica. I had two kids. A regular, well, not a very regular childhood. It was very violent. My father was very violent towards my mother, my stepmother, towards the kids and everything. Um, So I grew up very resented and very shy and very obedient. Um, and so I finally got out of home when I was around 17, almost 18. It was like 2 months to be in 18. I remember I rented a room in a house, um, and the owner of the house ended up sleeping with me and everything. He was 30 years older than me. So we had 2 kids, and after a while, I didn't want to be with him, and I left him. And after that, I started having a lot of issues with my job and illness and everything. I met an American girl in Costa Rica at my job. Under about that time that I was passing over all that stuff, and we became friends, and we started living together, kind of like saving some money, splitting our bills and everything. And suddenly, after 3.5 years, she decided to come back to United States. And one day, she just told me that her mother-in-law was needing a babysitter and that she wanted me to help her because she trusts me and everything. So I came in here. She offered me $1,000 for 10 days because the whole family wanted to go to New Year's in New York, and they just wanted no kids around. So I said yes. I knew the baby. I was already familiar. I said care for her, and it was money. I was needing the money. So in a split of a second, I was right here in the United States. But what happened is that I was not there to actually babysit. Her mother-in-law went and picked me up from the airport, and she showed me 3 pictures when I was in her car going to the apartment I was going to stay. It was the first picture. It was my son. He was at school. Then a picture of my daughter at her class, and then my ex-fiance at that time getting into his job. And she told me that I was there to please her friends for money sexually, and that if I didn't want anything to happen to my kids, um, I would comply with what she was asking me without any saying anything about it and just being a good girl. She told me that the pictures were taken from somebody that was with them all times, and that was the proof that she had someone following them. Um, she took me to an apartment where I was by myself with her, and then she started just bringing different men into the apartment, one at a time. The first guy actually, he was like he was like 6'5", 6'7", and he was huge. And I remember he telling me, "I am the breaker. There is more like me. We are going to make sure that you don't say anything, that you know how to put your money, that you know how to please, that you are a good girl, and so like don't do anything stupid." Um, and so that the first day I was with you know, like 10 men. I counted. I was locked in the house. There were people outside the apartment sleeping right outside the window. I remember like trying to escape, and they just flashed the lights, and then the phone ring, and it was her saying um, that she didn't left, that she left people with, in charge of me and everything. So I stayed the 10 days on that. I started working from 8 to 10 p.m. every day. I was not allowed to eat any food because of I had to take care of my weight, and it was work and no pleasure. I had to charge people and then give the money to her, and then get into the room and have sex from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Um, After that, they flew me back the day before, a few hours before her apartment. It was in Virginia, Fairfax, Virginia. And what I remember, it was that exactly right behind the apartment complex, it was the First Fast Mall. And so she took me in there. She bought a lot of stuff, and she told me it would be very suspicious if you just get into United States and don't buy anything, because of course everybody will do it. She told me that I was not to that anybody was going on, because um, she can do something to my kids, or someone can do something to my kids. Accident happens. That's what she said. Um, and then she put me in the airplane back to Costa Rica. I remember the whole time I was thinking that I wanted to say something about it, and then I got scared about it. I came home, and once I was there, I remember trying to open the gate so I can get into the house and then open the door of my house. And there was this gentleman across the street in the car, and as soon as he saw me, like open the door, the gate, he started approaching me, and he gave me an envelope, and he told me like, "Hey, how are you? I'm Hazel's friend, and I'm the one who took the pictures. I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that your kids are in good hands. I'm taking care like 24/7. Please do what we have to do. Don't worry about anything." Kayla, I remember feeling like somebody just threw like a bucket of cold water, because just like 30 minutes before, like 3 hours before, as soon as I was in the plane, in the flight, in the airplane, I was thinking, oh no, I'm just going to the court, someone is gonna do something. This cannot be like that. Um, and in that moment, all that disappeared. It was like I deleted. Um, I remember sleeping over, and then I remember saying, this cannot happen. This cannot be real. Like Costa Rica, prostitution is legal. But I knew and he wasn't. But there's no law in Costa Rica that said it was illegal to make somebody do it. So, in my point of view, my result was simple. I am a prostitute now. That's what she told me. You are a prostitute. I just teaching you something that will make you and your kids will never get hungry again, ever. And so I was sleeping and thinking at night what I'm going to do. And I remember I went to the court, and I tried to report what happened to me. In my country, my father is well known. Um, he is in the news almost every day. He's a public figure, as well as my sister. She's an international athlete and everything, and she knew that. My friend sold me to her mother-in-law, who run an international human trafficking sex ring, and I met her 4.5 years before. She knew everything. She knew my sister. She knew my family. She knew my kids. She knew my kid's father's family. And so I felt like I couldn't do anything. I went to the court, and when I said what happened, they told me to go to the nearest hospital on the jurisdiction where I lived, and to go for an STD. And if everything went negative, that I just can go somewhere else and take a picture of myself, just smile, and be proud of being a prostitute. I just look for the corner I wanted. That if I was privileged enough to do it elsewhere in dollars, that I should feel proud and to get that hell out of his face. It was a male. And in that moment, people start whispering and everything, and that's where I realized that people knew and recognized who I was, and then I just run away of the court. And I complied to the next flight. I just got into that flight, and that happened over and over and over again for 6.5 years.
I can never hear stories and just
Yeah, I know.
yeah, it's hard to hear no matter whose story it is. They're also different and they're also similar at the same time.
Right?
I'm so sorry you've had to go through this, and um, yeah, it's just crazy. Like I'm very familiar with Fairfax area. Um, I'm very familiar for like so I understand. And thank you for sharing that with us. I I don't think there are any questions that I am seeing so far, but I do just have a few for you. I'm just curious of like
Mhm.
um, what would you tell people of that are in the United States? So you like I don't have experience with an international human trafficking ring. What would be your suggestion on if how can people spot the signs of someone who's being internationally trafficked into the United States?
Well, I think the closer you are to that person, you're gonna find almost immediately that something is going on. Um, I used to visit my mom and my stepmom because I grew up halfway, like 10 years with my mom and then 10 years with a stepmom. So I used to visit them one in a Saturday and the other one the Sunday every week. I suddenly stopped because I was not there.
Mhm.
It was hard to catch me. I was always outside. Um, I started after a while. She started splitting some money because she needed to masquerade. So this is different that when it's in here because you don't have to masquerade anything. But
Yeah.
in her way, she needed to excuse us. So nothing happened. That was on her point of view right here in the United States. She didn't care about Costa Rica, but just in case somebody wanted to do something, she needed to do something. So she ended up giving us some portions so we can spend and everything. So how do you explain a person that is going outside, traveling all the time, and come back and suddenly has money and then stay a little bit in here and can buy this and that? The excessively of the money, the brands, you start changing the way you look, you start changing how you dress, you start changing the brands. Everything is different. So I think that it was pretty obvious. I remember I started getting extensions. I started like because I had it to. It was not that I wanted; it was required by my trafficker. And so I remember my stepmom saying like, "Oh my God, you look so beautiful lately," which she was like, why you didn't notice, but everybody's busy and everything. I'm not trying to shame anybody, but those are some signs that are pretty obvious almost instantaneously that whoop will ring any bells. um I had it 4 cell phones at a time.
Mhm.
4 cell phones. I mean, who am I'm not the manager of somebody else to have 4 cell phones at a time.
Yeah.
Why? The other thing is, I was not to say anything. When my trafficker took me to a dinner, I couldn't speak. She ordered for me. I didn't order. If we needed to go and buy what,
Oh, sorry guys. I think she lost connection. One second. um, she'll be hopping back on. This happened earlier. Um, and she'll be back on. Maybe not, but we'll give her a few seconds to hop back on. Um, Sorry for anyone watching. All right, there we go. Hi.
What happened?
I'm not sure.
Okay. That's weird.
You're back, that's right.
We're back on Facebook again or
Yeah.
not? So, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, like I lost the line of the whole thing.
It's all right.
That's like when you're walking and you fall in a hole and you're like, whoop.
Yep, you're like, okay, everything's off. I'm trying to think of some other questions. Okay, so the friend that you had made in Costa Rica, do you think she knew what was going on, or?
Yes, she knew. Oh, yeah, she knew. So the first day, well, night of that time, I was there. She was nowhere around. She came like on the third day. And when she came on the third day, it was in the morning with my trafficker. Um, she opened the door and she was like, "Hey, how are you?" She hugged me, kissed me, and everything. And she was like, "So are you ready?" And I'm like, I'm just there, like trying to exactly like your face. Like I'm trying to.
You're like,
Am I crazy? At that point, there's a point when you start guessing yourself. Like, is this a dream? Am I crazy? I have to be going nuts right away. Like, what's going on? After a lot of years of therapy, I know that that's normal. But at that moment, I was like, I just answered her. I was like, I have no idea. And I just followed the flow because there were so many males already telling me, go with the flow. Don't be stupid. That she had heard others. Don't go to that list. And I had a very violent childhood. My father broke my mother's nose like 5 times. Here, her arm. He hit me when I was like 10 years old. He started kicking me, pulling me to the floor and kicking me and everything. So when you grow up in such a trauma, you learn to obey without even asking why. So I don't know what happened in that moment. When she started behaving like that, I just clicked and I'm like, okay, nothing is going on in between you and me. We had a conversation because after like a year and a half of being flown back and forth, at the beginning it was just 10 days, then it was 15 days, month and a half. 6 months is a month that you can be here without cutting that extension they give you when you're like a visitor. So it was 6 months and then a month in Costa Rica, another 6 months and everything. Like I lost my kids in the middle of this. I was not even in Costa Rica at the end. So you start trying to stop the whole thing. And I started telling some of the clients that I was against my will. And so after like this, maybe the third trip, I was not by myself. I was there. There were like three other girls, and then that's the next trip. It was more others and everything, and so that's when I understood that it was worse than I thought. And people from another countries, not only from Costa Rica, from another countries, and then every time that I got in there, the first thing I had to do is to give my passport to her. And in my country, prostitution is legal. In here, it's not. So I'm coming to another country. I'm committing a crime. In my mind, I'm committing a crime. So how I'm gonna ask for help?
yeah.
I mean, any criminal, if he's going to rob a bank, he's not gonna go and talk to the police. That's the same thing. It's just I didn't know. I knew it was something against my will. I didn't make sense. It was a crime at all. I mean, I tried to ask for help in court in Costa Rica, but they didn't even understood what human trafficking was. I didn't know what human trafficking was at all. I just thought I was being prostituted and I was a prostitute. That's it.
I understand. So thank you for sharing all this. I don't think anyone has any other questions. Is there anything else you would like to just share about it? Or anything you'd like to share for people who are watching that, probably most people that are watching don't have any experience with this. At least I hope they don't. So,
let's hope so.
okay, wait, here's a question. What was a turning point for you?
I tried to kill myself 5 times.
Hmm.
And the first time it was just me 3 days in the ER. And the fourth time it was 3.5 weeks. The fifth time I was there like about 6 weeks. And every single time it just started escalating. Like nothing was enough. I was just here. I lost my kids. I gave up the custody of my kids. That was not even enough. I had to divorce my fiance and we just got married. I had to divorce him. Then they asked me to stop talking to my family. I stopped leaving and having contact with them. So I was by myself, just me. I had no one to talk at all for almost 6.5 years. I started working at 8. Then they wanted me to work from 8 to night to 1 to 2. Then they started, instead of just working, like me working in an apartment, they put me in a hotel. And then I got arrested once, and they never helped me in anything. So they decided that I was a risky person because I had a lot of clients, and I was popular. And so they started putting me quotas. And then they started to put drugs on me, plus the quotas. And then I started trying to kill myself. And the whole situation, I was like, what else do you want from me? It was a point where my trafficker was coming to my own house every day to tell me stuff. And so it comes to a point that is, what else do you want? Like, my life makes no sense at all. I prefer to be dead at this point. So that was my last point. Like, the last time I tried to kill myself, I was not talking. I was weighing only 105 pounds. I'm 5'6.5". So I was super skinny, and a nurse recognized me, and he said, like, I saw you before. You were not this person. He started looking at my history. He talked to the doctors. They started talking to me and everything. He went and he said, I know what is going on with you. I'm going to tell you what is going on with you. You tell me if you want the help or not. You don't have to tell me. And then he started describing what human trafficking was. He said that at his college, he was working a lot. He missed classes, so he was doing credits because it was like a seminar and people were talking about human trafficking. And he said, like, you just, like, there's something about you. I know you for 3.5 years now, and you keep coming and coming worse and everything. This is human trafficking. And he started talking to me about it. And I'm like, oh, like, that's the moment that I'm getting out of here. And as soon as I'm getting out of here, I'm going to search. And if this person is telling me the truth, I'm going to do something about it. And I went, I Googled, and I found that I remember crying so much. And I just called 911 and I reported my trafficker. She got arrested after like almost 4 years of investigating everything. But yes, it was a turning point. Like, what else do you want from me? Like, you're doing everything else. What else?
And who was it? Did you say it was a hospital staff person that told you what it was?
It's a male nurse.
Good for him. Whoever that male nurse is, good for him.
I've been trying to search, trying to see if I can get to talk to him, like, I hope.
Yeah. I hope you find him too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Was it in like the same area in Virginia, Fairfax area? Or
No. It was in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Okay. Well, I hope you find him and can give him a hug one day. Because that's awesome.
Have a little coffee talk.
What? Have some coffee.
Talk, yeah. There you go. Yeah. Well, Costa Ricans love coffee. That's my thing. So
I'm from America and I love coffee. So Costa Rica coffee is really good though. I've had like bags of it from Costa Rica before. It is phenomenal. So Awesome. Well, no one else asked any questions, but is there anything else you'd like to share?
Just want to share that you feel or you um, if you feel that you think somebody is a human trafficking victim, um, this is the type of crime that is better to say sorry. I thought about it like that. That just know that you could have done something and that person was indeed being trafficked. So if you suspect something, if you feel um, a suspicious behavior, if you have a neighbor that cannot answer the questions unless somebody is around, things like that, you know, you can Google numbers depending on the area you are. You can anonymously report somebody and probably save a life. So again, sometimes it's like you shouldn't do it, but in this type of crime, it's better to feel, say sorry. I thought I doubted you, but maybe you will save a life. Like it's a crime that right now is like whoever you are, if you are a female or a male, then you can be a victim, and we're all females or males. So
Yeah, absolutely. And then is there any do you do any like a platform or like podcast or is for people,
yeah,
I saw that you have a podcast on there. So is there anything you'd like to share about that if people want to follow you and kind of keep up with what you're doing?
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I decided to start a podcast. The name is Cindy's Voice Podcast, Cindy, Cindy's Voice Podcast. Um, I try to put a lot of survivors out there. I give them the platform to share their stories, so we all understand that this crime is not like 1, 2, 3 or ABC. It has a lot of ifs and um, different keys and components, but yeah, like you said at the beginning, it's very similar at the same time. So we need to understand a lot of the scenarios so we can start comprehending in that way. If we understand and have a very in a clear view of what's going on with human trafficking, I think if we see the opportunity, if we see a survivor, sorry, a victim or a trafficker, then we will recognize. So I'm trying to focus in educating about how a victim feels like to be, how human trafficking is, and what happens after you are out of that. It's not easy. It's not like you just crash in a car and then you just go to a doctor and the anxiety and the whole thing. Like it's more complicated than that. So how do we talk to a person like that when they are close to us? What if that's my niece and she is out and she's a survivor? Like how do I approach her? Is she gonna change? How much? How it's gonna affect us as a family, as a neighborhood? All the things happen. So I try to educate and bring therapists and a lot of community members and everything in community, so we can understand a little bit more the whole thing of human trafficking. So you can go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any platform that you prefer. Cindy's Voice Podcast.
It's called Cindy's Voice Podcast.
The same as my Instagram as well.
Okay.
Cindy's Voice Podcast.
I'm putting this into the comments so people can follow it if they'd like to. Cindy's Voice Podcast. And that's your Instagram as well?
Yes, that's my Instagram as well.
Okay. I put that in there. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Any last words or anything else? And awesome. Thank you for also the podcast you're doing and sharing all of that and giving other survivors that platform too.
Yeah, it would be good to share your story as well. Let's talk about that a little bit later. I would love to.
Absolutely. I'll reach out to you and we can talk about that too.
And thank you very much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And another sister that I met, I'm very happy that you're here with us.
I'm happy you're here with us too. And it's awesome to hear that you're doing doing well and thriving in Florida, and even with your podcast and doing all this. I don't like to call us survivors. I like to call us warriors, because survivor ties us to a victim, and I don't side with that anymore. so seriously, like, your story is so hard and incredible, and like, it's amazing to see you come from what you've been through to who you are now, and you're beautiful and doing podcasts and giving other people's that. So it's so encouraging to see other survivors thriving and just kind of battling it out for the rest of them that are still stuck.
But that's the thing, you know, like sometimes I see myself like super good and everything, and then I start getting down, and so it's gonna be a roller coaster. That's how it is. It's never gonna be a line, and um that's something. Oh my God, this keep falling.
Oh, that's what she's doing. She has Apple iPods in, and she's clicking out of it. Sorry guys, she'll hop right back on. Thank you for everyone who is on and just rolling with this. She'll be on soon. She's just logging back in, I believe. If anyone has any questions though, feel free to send some in. I'm sure she'll be willing to answer whatever questions you have. Something, if you don't know anything about, ask the questions, especially from, these are the best people to ask questions to, as survivors. They're the experts. So 1 second, let's see if she hops back on. Oh, I don't know if she's hopping back on. Let me see real quick. 1 second. Okay. I don't believe that she's able to hop back on for some reason. So thank you guys for everyone who's hopped back on. I'm so sorry that she couldn't finish it out real quickly, but thank you for everyone who's hopped back on. And I hope you all have a great rest of your night. I hope this answered some more questions. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us on Operation Reality Rescue. We can answer questions. We also help out with people if you do suspect someone is being trafficked. So feel free to reach out if you ever feel that way or have any suspicions. We are more than welcome to help, and we would love to help in those situations. So have a great rest of your Saturday, guys, and we'll be sharing about our next series coming soon. So bye, guys.